Hi, welcome to my crosscore fit flow program. Today is day 1. We'll be practicing crosscore flow foundation. We're focusing on the wrists, balance, and optimization of internal body power, which will bring us into our crosscore power structure that we'll be practicing throughout the programs together. Let's begin. We start on the front of the mat with the hands and we take downward dog. From downward dog, we come back down to establish our positioning, and we'll begin to hug the arms in, activating the upper inner arm power, which rotates the shoulder joints out and allows our shoulder blades to release down. From here, we'll press, squeezing the inner thighs, inner seat, inner core to elongate the shoulders and round the spine. The toes are flexed and we're pressing back. All right, from here we're going to come up, lift our hands slightly, shifting our weight into the heels of our palms, and as we draw the elbows in again, we'll allow our wrists to rotate out, spreading our fingers and releasing down the hands with the index fingers potentially pointing forwards, which will give us a strong base press in our inner wrists and at the base of our thumbs, which will support the spiral structure of the shoulders rotating out. And as the shoulders rotate out, I'm just reviewing that we can allow our shoulder blades to go down and activate our core body. So the core body is the pelvic floor, squeezing from the inner thigh, which will activate our abdominal core and ultimately shift into our rib body, which will access our upper power, upper core body. And we'll press up, and leading with the head, we'll roll back. Feel the front ribs contracting on the exhale and the back rib body expanding on the inhale. From here, we'll rise up comfortably and we'll start to prepare the body with the Master Mudra, which is wrist therapy, turning the hands forward, forward, and back, back. Exhaling back, inhaling forward. We'll start to activate our yogic breath that we'll be using throughout our programming, which is simply pressing the tongue lightly to the roof of the mouth and breathing deeply through our nose, which will create a resonant sound and feeling in the throat, which is the region of purification and regulation of fluid and energy in the body. So we'll turn one hand back, we'll bend the elbow as much as we can, and we'll squeeze up the inner line of the arm. We'll draw the shoulder back, extend the shoulder joint, stabilize the shoulder blade, and activate our upper core body of the rib structure of the chest. This will feel quite strong, so don't feel the need to go any deeper, but if you ultimately can, you would eventually, if not today, with regular practice, you could try on extending into the extreme version. And then once you've tasted that, you can come back down and release that intensity, roll it out, and press the back of the hand into the floor with the middle finger pointing towards the center of the mat. And roll a little of the weight forward, but that's quite strong on the wrist nerves. The more we spread our fingers, including our thumb, the more expansive, spacious the wrist becomes, and which means strength, space is strength also. And we can, with the toes flexed, press back so that the arm is seeming to feel like it's in a downward dog position, which will allow us to press back. Always the principles are the same, so it's easy to remember. The arm hugs in, the shoulder rotates out. The shoulder blades can then release down, which will activate the ribs, and we press into those ribs and extend the shoulder joints, stabilizing the shoulder blade and activating the upper core body. That will cross down like an X, crossing at the core and activating the lower power structures that we'll discuss as we carry on together. Now from here, again, this might be the limit. Moving forward would be quite strong on the wrist, so pressing diagonally back like a downward dog is really optimum. And if you want the extreme version, again, it's always the same. You can try on pressing deep from the primary base support palm. Feel the expansive and stretch And the pressure as you release down will be strong, but because we're diagonally back, it won't be too strong, like planking into that wrist. This is smart. And when we release down, we can drop and turn the palm over, which will instantly recirculate the hand and will slide up onto the thumb. Let me repeat that movement. From the back of the hand, as we drop the elbow, we'll just turn the hand forward. And as we come up onto the hand, we'll spread the fingers and we'll allow the thumb and small finger pads to slide into a position of base support, and the remaining fingers can grip in to center. Now, optimally, if you have your middle finger pointing forward, that may give you some collapse. So I suggest that from the hug, and the index will turn forward and the thumb will point towards the center of the mat to give the most support. As usual, we continue to rotate the arm in, drop the shoulder, and breathe the exhalation of the core. Feel the navel move towards the spine, the sit bones draw in, and the rib body switch on. And from here, you can hold your position with flexed toes, or you can inhale up with the hips and exhale down with the heels. Another way to practice, and then rest. Another way to practice that is to take, instead of a striking fist or a striking strike stance, but more of like a knocking fist, like when your thumb goes to the side so the fist becomes flat. You can rest your palm right over that fist as a form of support for your finger stance. It's quite comfortable as we fit our own natural body's design. Optimally, eventually, you can put a tennis ball under your palm when you practice at home. And that will give you the support and the grip and the strength needed to practice this with 1 or 2 tennis balls eventually. Now we bring the hand down, and one of the reasons for working one side at a time is because it's accessible power with a hug, release of the shoulder to the rib, and pressing back with the long shoulder into the upper core body. Here we can feel the power on one side, and we could even stand down and be aware of that wrist we just worked is so connected, so spacious and energized that we could even drop our heels to the side and stay here if that's quite strong, or even press up and become aware of the inner strength of that side body, and ultimately feel the upper length of the opposite side body, so that when we press back and shift the weight to the other wrists, you can feel how the body will slowly balance after we practice both sides. But first, we'll come down, cross our feet, and bring our hands back to our thighs so that we can just feel that kind of power activation and, more importantly, total body integration. The arm, how it connects through the upper rib, down across the abdomen, through the pelvic floor, into the inner thigh, and ultimately through the feet from hand to opposite foot. That's an important aspect of our cross-core body structure, which works in oppositional support for the cross-lateral power design that we're born with. So now we're going to practice the other side. I will go at the same pace, but I won't give it as much attention to detail since we just practiced the first side. So we'll turn the other hand back and pause and feel that warming up just by the pressure of the palm. Then we'll bend the elbow slightly, squeeze up the inner arm, feel the spiraling shoulder and the activating rib body. And pause here. You might want to flex your toes if you want to feel the support of pressing the primary supporting palm to shift back into the intense level option, then ease back down, release that, roll the wrist out, press the back of the hand towards the floor, and again, perhaps not planking forward as that's quite strong on the nerves in the wrist, but instead hugging and pressing back on the diagonal back. The back toes are flexed. The seat moves towards the feet, and we feel, you can move into the intensity and out of it so it feels secure to be able to go a little deeper, which could be using the primary supporting palm again to stand down. There's another option, which is another form of mudra support or hand posture support, which is to take the heel of the palm into the base of the thumb near the wrist and pressing that down to stabilize the inner wrist weight, basing, and then again hugging in, releasing the blades, the wingspan of the shoulder blades into the rib cage, and extending into power, activating the back body. Which is to say, when we close the front rib cage through the exhale, we have the capacity to inhale, open the back body, or inhale, expand the back rib cage, which pulls pressure off of the spine and allows the spine to lengthen and the body to feel free from a source of power. Then we release that, roll that out, spread and grip. This is a more fast track, if you like, dynamic way of getting through the wrist therapy we call Master Mudra. If that's too strong and too fast, again, we can practice the more introductory way of dropping down onto the forearm, turning the hand forward, rolling up onto the slow finger stance, and practicing like that. Again, the universal principle is to hug in the power, release the shoulders, activate the upper lower cross core, the ribs and the inner thighs. So switch on the pelvic floor and abdominal core. We've got the long shoulder. The shoulder blade is established on the rib. And we can stop here with active toes, or we can taste the deeper level of pressing into the finger stance. Now, when the shoulder structure is engaged in deep alignment, it provides the deepest release of the neck. So it's important to remember to release the head, to receive the deep neck stretch, releasing the tension from the neck, and all of the unnecessary mental data can release out of the top of the head as well. Then we can roll up with a fresh mind, open heart, and a stable body, kneeling down. And of course, we need to complete the action of the Master Mudra, the wrist therapy, this cross-core flow foundation by feeling the hand on the ground, activating our structure, even resetting the wrist angle. The angle of the wrist will reset as we hug the arm in. The palms will come down. The shoulder blades will release. So press up to the long shoulder and the strong core. We still have the active toes to draw back. And we pause here, reconnecting with our yogic breath. Tongue slightly lifted. Throat slightly activated. And we remind ourselves that when we rise from a downward squat into a downward dog, nearly everyone, without giving it thought, will just move forward and stand down because it is the way to go around the tension in the shoulders and the hips. However, the power of downward dog is press power. It's because we realize that we should actually not move forward at all, but rather press directly backwards so that we begin to move immediately through the tension in the shoulder and up through the hips, which allows us to be aware that when we walk our dog side to side and we keep pressing back, that the shoulders and hips will release deeply side to side, but the body's not really moving forward. This is the power of downward dog. While we're here, we might as well open our scorpion tail and create a long cross-core musculature, which allows a lovely release also in the lower back and spine. Always practicing both sides. We'll rise forward and release down and back. Okay. Now from here, we can stop and rest with our elbows down and bring our palms together and cross our feet, relaxing our toes, bringing our elbows slightly in or not, whatever's comfortable. It's just that the narrower stance with the spread active fingers can open and release the shoulder joints while also expanding the shoulder blades, so that when we release our head, we get this lovely stretch, release of energy through the head, neck, and shoulders. This is a good place to stop. But if you want to feel the completion, or I should say the introduction of wrist therapy, moving into shoulder structuring, which results in the next step of releasing deeply through the shoulders, you can do this one last movement, which is with the elbows as close together, with the wrists pulled apart. You'll feel the shoulder joints and shoulder blades. Palms can come down, toes can flex. And again, the same principle of not moving forward unless you really need to press straight back and work through the deep shoulder blade, through the upper back, between the blades, the long spine. And this is the foundation of power press for the shoulder structure. You can even twist your hips and heels to find the release of the tension in the back body, from the hips to the shoulders and the entirety of the spine. Then ultimately you could straighten your arms, turn your thumbs forward, get full hug of the inner arm, full release of the shoulder, full extension of the shoulder joint, and activation of the front ribs on the exhale, so we can feel the expansion of the rib cage and the back body as we inhale and stand down. Expanding back ribs will release and expand sacrum, which will lengthen the lower spine. So this is the correct feeling of downward dog, with a master mudra that will represent a butterfly press or a dynamic handstand. Then when we press our palms back together, we can feel the support of left and right meeting in the middle, balancing our body, mind, and spirit. After a while, it may become natural to allow your shoulder blades to recede back, which will allow the base of our thumbs to rest on our heart bone, which activates a natural healing response from the heart chakra, or the energetic heart center of our subtle body. And the breath is the key. Namaste.